Watch this moment. A young girl finds something wonderful, a bright, colorful notebook in a quiet stationery shop. She holds it up, eyes wide, waiting for the person she loves most to share her excitement. In developmental psychology, this is a bid for connection. Her father is physically there, but he's currently drowning in the invisible load. He is managing the 71% of household cognitive and emotional labor that parents shoulder, the relentless internal work of keeping a family functioning. This load is a constant mental script. It's remembering the pediatrician's availability, noticing a child's changing shoe size, monitoring the fridge before it's empty. It is a state of chronic multitasking that leaves the adult brain at total capacity. When the father finally offers a distracted nod without looking up, the bid fails. The connection breaks. You can see it in her posture. The enthusiasm simply evaporates. It is a striking paradox. Modern parents spend more physical time with their children than any generation in the last 60 years. Yet we have engineered a world where they have never felt more emotionally distant. This father is using his phone as a coping mechanism, a digital pressure valve to escape the boredom and stress of a high-load day. Researchers call this disruption of family time technofearance. To understand why he doesn't see the damage, we have to look at how he was raised. Most of today's parents were the latchkey kids of the 70s and 80s. They came of age in an era of profound operational independence and physical solitude. Their brains were wired for a different protocol. They learned that safety meant self-reliance. They foraged for snacks, settled disputes with siblings without mediation, and managed hours of unstructured time without any adults present. This creates a massive cognitive blind spot. Because these parents survived total physical absence, their brains register simply being in the room as good parenting. Proximity is mistaken for presence. When no one was there to help them name their loneliness, they learned to stop naming it at all. They became competent, but they also learned to compartmentalize their own emotional needs, and they instinctively expect their children to do the same. But here is the error in that logic. Because they survived extreme physical absence, they fail to recognize that a parent's digital absence triggers the exact same abandonment response in a child's nervous system. A child cannot rationalize that their parent is answering an email to pay for those groceries. They only register the blank look and the silence. According to accept rejection theory, the brain's amygdala registers phone-induced silence as neglect. It bypasses the logical centers, treating the lack of attention as a severe social threat. Chronic exposure to this rejection breeds rejection-sensitivity dysphoria, or RSD. The threat response system becomes hypersensitized. RSD creates a cycle of intense, rapid-onset emotional pain. A child's brain begins to scan every social cue for potential disapproval, interpreting a distracted sigh or a quick glance at a screen as evidence of a total loss of love. By using a screen to momentarily escape the stress of parenting, adults are inadvertently training their child's brain to feel perpetually abandoned. This emotional gap eventually forces its way into the physical world. Children who feel ignored often engage in risky or hyperactive behavior, tantrums and accidents, specifically designed to break the parent's digital trance. As they grow, the fallout turns inward. Teenagers mirror the coping mechanisms they observed. They retreat into their own devices, seeking validation from social media and online communities to fill the silence left by distracted caregivers. Reversing this cycle begins with bringing the invisible load into the light. It requires parents to make their mental labor visible, using open communication and shared systems to pull the mental checklist out of one person's head. Clearing that internal administrative noise is the only way to recover the emotional capacity needed to be truly present. It restores the bandwidth required to actually see a child's bids for connection before they disappear, because those bids are finite. If we don't name and manage our unseen burdens, we will lose the connections we are striving to protect. This notebook goes back on the shelf, and eventually, the child stops holding it up